Hey, podcast world, welcome to another wonderful, exciting, thrilling, enthralling, deep, and informative episode of FNO InsureTech with your hosts, Rob Beller
and Lee Boyd.
And today we're broadcasting from Waco, Texas, or we're recording in Waco, Texas. We're both here together at the same table, which is always a pleasure.
Staring eye to eye right now.
Even though you just insulted me.
I don't remember which one it was.
Yeah, you accused me of not being a listener.
Oh, we have to listen with our ears.
Yeah, instead of with our
eyes.
Today we have on Shefi Ben-Hutta from Coverager, who is somebody who tells it like it is.
Straight shooter.
What is Coverager?
So Coverager, as I know it, is a newsletter that I subscribe to that really gives information about the world of InsureTech. And as you'll find out, it's a straight shooting newsletter. It tells you the good, bad, the ugly, even the neutral, but about what is going on in our industry, in the insurance world, and how InsureTech is changing and evolving.
Right. They're not afraid to tell you that something works, and they're not afraid to tell you that maybe it hasn't worked, right. As well as more importantly, just to have vast coverage of lots of different points in the current InsureTech value chain. Let's move right into the episode, which is terrific, with our special guest, Shefi Ben-Hutta from Coverager. Hey, everybody. We're here with our guest today, Shefi Ben-Hutta from Coverager. How you doing, Shefi?
I'm doing well. Hello.
Hello. We're very excited about this particular episode because we haven't had somebody on from the media. Did we get that right? Or is that what we would say about you? You're from the media?
I would definitely use that term.
So
and research. Let's add the research component.
Media and research.
And does that kind of come out of your background as an analyst?
Absolutely not. So I definitely did not learn this. I went to school. I learned applied mathematics, and then I got my MBA at NYU. And business analyst, you're oftentimes in front of Excel spreadsheet and writing requirements. But it was always a habit of mine to stay on top of news and information and share that with the rest of the team. Now, keep in mind, I'm Israeli, so in order for me to make any kind of intelligent conversation, I can't talk to you about sports. You know that better than I do. And the weather is the weather. So I would talk about strategy and news, and that kind of became a part of who I was when I moved from Israel to the US. And I think that led me into blogging and researching and into that media component.
Okay. But you like to write?
No. I have to write in order to communicate. I like
and make a living. Yeah.
I like to educate. I think part of me wanted to be a teacher when I was younger. And I like being the source of information. I like having a community. I like having a voice. I remember that when I was working in front of, with Excel, I missed the human element. And with Coverager, there's plenty of that. There's plenty of that kind of back and forth and a dialogue, not always online. Sometimes it will be privately via email. That's just the nature of the industry. But yeah, I think that the drive was education more than anything else. And then Avi, when Avi came along, Avi is my brother and co-founder of Coverager. And there's another brother, by the way. So I
noticed that. I noticed that he had a byline on something the other day.
Isaac, yes.
Family business.
100%.
That's cool. So let's just delve into your background just a little bit, because I think it's really interesting. You're from Israel originally, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
And Israel is a really happening place on the technology scene. Did that figure in somehow into how you got to where you are today?
For sure. So I started, well, how far do we want to go? Let's start when I was 19, right? 19, you finish high school in Israel. You basically, you have a route. You either join the army or you do national service. And I did national service, and I was working at a school. Again, I love teaching. And after a year, I was offered a position at an insurance agency. And this was right around the time when I applied to learn applied mathematics at university, and it made perfect sense, right? It was a job that paid well, and they were flexible with my hours, and I got to do my degree. But then, kind of 6 years into being in an insurance agency, literally selling insurance. And in Israel, the way you sell insurance is very simple. It's, hi, how are you? What's the price? I mean, we don't make it very complicated. We get to the deal, and if I can beat the deal, that's fine. Definitely a commodity business, and that's kind of
So quite unlike how it is here.
yes, not so much about comparative raters and all that technology. I don't think it has changed dramatically from the time I left. And honestly, I will argue that in the US it's getting there as well, but we'll talk about that later.
Sure.
I basically, after I finished my degree, I said, well, I did not choose this. And so I'm going to step out of the insurance industry. And I was just doing random jobs here and there. And there was a position for a business analyst for a stealthy startup. And that stealthy startup, when I applied, I realized that they were selling software to insurance agents in the US. But I loved the team and I really wanted the position. And I think back then it was one of the best positions I've ever had. And it was ridiculous because we were working towards a product launch. And I remember how we would spend, we would stay till sometimes 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. And by the way, in Israel, transportation is not the greatest. So I remember my mom would wait for me to tell her the exact hour to pick me up.
Hmm.
The commute was challenging, and they would order sushi and pizza, and it was a wonderful experience. And that's basically the company that brought me to the US. It's it by the name of Bolt Solutions. And they got me to where I am here, basically, or just to start, because they were selling comparative raters. And through them, I got to learn about the agency channel and working with carriers like Hanover and CNA and Travelers and Hartford. And that led me to my career at CNA. So I mean, it's been a journey, but yeah. So I'm pulled out of insurance to just be pulled right back in. But I will tell you this: I don't consider myself like working solely in insurance because we do strategy and marketing, and I think that's kind of the beauty of the industry. If there is one, is that you can. There's so many roles that you can pick on.
I agree from my own experience working in insurance, where I've been for over 20 years, that there's a variety of things that you can do, and a lot of welcoming to that. I mean, there's some areas that are a little harder to get into than others, but we enjoy that. So let's talk about Coverager. You've described Coverager as a new modern media company to the new insurance professional, and we want to unpack that. But why don't you go ahead and tell us about Coverager and maybe about that description?
Sure. So the modern insurance professional, when I created Coverager at first, I started to blog. It was what would be something that I would enjoy reading, right? And I was kind of in my late 20s, a professional, so that was the mindset. The mindset was also nobody wants to read about insurance for the love of it. Like it's something that you want to do if you want to be good at your job. So you have to make it short and simple and succinct, and that's where the newsletter format came in. And modern insurance, I don't know, probably Avi would disagree with the terminology because he probably thinks I use way too many words than I should. But that's why he's the creative and he came up with Coverager. But I think it was just an idea to differentiate between, the insurance journal of the world or property casualty, or because when we created Coverager, it was insurance entertainment, we had no rules. I mean, there was one rule. We have to make it interesting. We have to offer value. Like, that was it.
Sure.
We didn't have a business model. I thought I would be attracting like tons of females because I was a female, and that clearly didn't happen. So it was just a matter of doing something and improving. So I'm not going to sit here and say that, hey, back in 2016, I knew exactly where Coverager was going. I think I only figured it out, or we figured it out this year. It was just kind of a trial and error. At first, I thought I was writing to insurance agents, and at first it was all about social media and digital. And then InsureTech came along, and we were just kind of in the perfect perfect time, perfect place
Hmm.
where we started to cover InsureTech ahead of everybody else. And then all of a sudden we have this, like, we have research and we have data that people don't really have, like the archives, what happened. Um, and it started to ring a bell every time you cover a story. And then, well, this is similar to what happened here. And so, we kind of created this strategic and critical tone and everything together. But again, only one rule, just be interesting. And we have to do this on a daily basis. So God help us, but we we do it
5 days a week.
5 days a week. Yes.
That's tough.
Tell me about it. You just have to, it doesn't matter what you do once in a while. It matters what you do every day. And to us, that's how we market.
Hmm.
Uh, we started with the news component, right? The daily newsletter, and that's free.
Hmm.
And but that's our marketing. And this is why you're not going to find me on so many podcasts, and you're not going to find me doing so many interviews, because about 8 or 9 times of the day it's for that newsletter, which to us is like the flagship product.
Sure.
And it's the advertising, but then through that we launched into research, and there's now a network component. So it's just been tremendous, and it keeps us on our toes, because things are happening.
It's the heart. I mean, and without the heart of it, the rest of it kind of falls apart, right? I mean,
It's exactly that.
so you publish 5 days a week, and I am not a subscriber, though I get it. I get the free one, but it goes past that, right? Tell us about what what the subscription is, what you get for free, and what you get if you pay, and what's the difference.
So the daily email, obviously free, will always be free, and that's where we cover startups and the whole landscape. And then there is a knowledge component, which is basically members' subscription for research. And every month we'll put together 2 research papers, one that kind of recaps what is happening in terms of web traffic growth, partnerships, technology use cases, for typically for direct to consumer startups. And then there is just kind of ad hoc research that if we think that the topic is worth delving into, whether it's small business insurance. Everything is digital, right? So we're not covering legacy so much, but maybe life insurance, or what we know, the modern Primerica, what that could look like. So we'll kind of combine the creative tone that you get in small doses in the daily email into something that is typically a lot longer and with more meat in it. And I'll say that now we have 5 insurance companies that have subscribed.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I think we launched it 4 months ago.
Mhm.
And then we have the network component, which is basically, I mean, today we're hosting a meetup at our office. So typically every third Thursday of the month, you can come to our office for pizza and beer and mingle. And
Are those well attended?
yeah,
Uh-huh. I mean, you guys are certainly in the heart of financial hub. It's an insurance hub, and now it's an InsureTech hub. Yes, I mean, there's a lot of InsureTech going on in New York City.
for sure. Yes.
Yeah, it's cool to be in the right place. It seems like you guys cover direct to consumer a lot. Is that a particular interest to you?
Yes. So I do think the game is in distribution.
Uh-huh.
I also think it's a lot about perception. So what does the end user sees? And I think there is if I take, for example, lemonade, right? I would see how, like, half of the market hates them and half of the market loves them. And it's funny because we know the people that critique lemonade, it's because of their communication, but their communication is exactly what some of the customers think. They think that insurance companies don't pay claims, right? And so they lead with that, and it does something. So the marketer in me and the strategist in me, and obviously Avi's background in creative and advertising, I think this is where how InsureTech started to begin with. Because when InsureTech came into the industry, it's not that insurance never used technology. On the contrary, there's plenty of technology in
Sure,
insurance, maybe
sure.
not equally distributed. Correct?
Correct, sure, absolutely.
So, but InsureTech came in with this proposition. We understand the modern consumer. We understand the millennial better. We understand the younger shopper that may not have access to an independent agent. And oftentimes, and I say this again, and I can't say this enough, it will boil down to just better communication strategy, better marketing, better creative. than anything else. So the focus is there. And also, to be honest, if somebody says that they're AI and data science, I mean, can I prove it? Just good luck.
Yeah. I was reading the coverage your newsletter from yesterday, and and tell me if I'm wrong, but it would appear as though you don't always paint everything in the most rosy way. You're trying to deliver the most information that's out there. For example, you had a quote in there, and I won't mention the life insurance company, but it was a quote from a person's comment on LinkedIn. Is that something you try to do? Is actually put out there what the actual industry sees?
All the time, all the time.
Yeah, I mean that is pretty neat. I mean that's
Refreshing.
refreshing. I like to be able to see that.
Well, it's a PR driven industry. If I'm just to recycle these PRs, then what value will Coverager bring? And so that the value that Coverager brings is that 360 degrees. I'll be the first to say, okay, why do you need to use a blockchain technology and tit for tat kind of, or what are the employees saying? Okay, not what the consumers are saying. And thank God for social media. I don't think there would be Coverager if there wasn't social media, because nowadays it's easy to hear. I mean, you want consumer insights? I'll give you consumer insights. You just have to kind of go after it and not just accept things for granted. Again, back to this is what the companies are saying about themselves. Now let's go see what the other side is saying. And it's still shocking to me. I mean, we're talking about InsureTech, and InsureTech uh, is it great? I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet. I guess it's better than just insurance, and it certainly makes for better careers. But how come for the majority of the InsureTech, like Facebook reviews is turned off?
Oh yeah.
So what is really being like? What is changing? And if there is change, does it matter, right? So that's covered.
Don't you find that, the insurance industry, and I'm talking 30,000 feet view of it, very closed down, very secretive, very cards close to your chest, not wanting to be transparent, not wanting to, share, worried about competition. And so to be transparent in that world is, I don't know, brand new, uncomfortable, I'm sure, for a lot of people, out of the ordinary. Would you agree with that?
I would agree. Yes. I mean, I don't know what happens in other industries because I've never worked in a different industry, but I know with Coverager, I was recently working on a smart home paper, and I reached out to all the folks. One of them was actually a part of your show. And when you go down to certain questions, or even if you just want to have a conversation, they're not willing to have a conversation that's a level deeper than what they put out in a press release. And it's
Correct.
not just about smart home, right? There is definitely this element where we would reach out to folks and they may agree with us, but then the second sentence is, but he's our friend.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still a he, by the way, because that's just the nature of the industry. But yes, so there is that, but we don't stop at it. I mean, we push, and if we need to speak with, I will tell you, not to reveal all our secrets, but we definitely go and speak with ex-employees, or just try to reach out to people. Does this make sense? If it's an important story, we'll do that.
Sure, to get a full picture.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely out of the ordinary for our industry. I mean, even the trade publications that are out there, there's just a general rule that it's never critical, or to use your term, 360. It's typically a fairly rosy view of what's going on. So we have several different kinds of guests on our show. And when you reach out to an InsureTech, typically what we find is you reach out and they say, yes, we'd love to be on your show. When you reach out to a carrier to talk to them, or a carrier employee or executive, it could take 6-8 months to go through the approval channels to get them to be on our show. And that must affect you in your work too, that they don't want to be forthcoming or fully transparent, right? You must run into that.
They're not allowed.
They're not allowed, right? It's just shut down.
Yeah, there's an individual that works in the communication department, and it typically reaches that person, and oftentimes it will just not get through. Or it's the person that I speak with, and this is where kind of off the record becomes a conversation, and you just need plenty off the record in order to create a story, and that would happen as well. But they're just not going to bother. They're not going to go and just ask for the right approval. And I think, to my credit, when I was working at CNA, am I going to go and get the approval necessary for me to put a blog out there, or am I just going to do it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, I just did it, but but I think that's the Israeli side of me. But I just did it, and it's the most wonderful thing that I've done for myself. So I think, to everybody out there, you still need to develop your voice, and you can't be behind this corporate culture, because the one thing that InsureTech is doing a lot better than incumbents, and even though sometimes it's the same exact story, just different packaging, is that the InsureTech founders, and you know what they stand for. And oftentimes that doesn't happen with legacy insurers.
So do you find it easier to cover InsureTechs in the InsureTech world than the incumbents?
Yes.
Sure.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
Us too, even though there's the content from incumbents is so potentially rich, right? And so important, because I mean, at the end of the day, or maybe not, and I'm interested in your take on this, who's going to keep the InsureTech movement going? It's going to be the incumbents. They have the money.
Yes. Okay. I can see that. Reinsurers, I guess, specifically.
Right. What do you think about that?
Well, in a way, it's a fact, right? Because if you look at startups that are being backed by insurers or reinsurers, then yes. I also think that there's going to be this element that we haven't quite seen yet 100%, but where fintech is going to come in, or prop tech, or more platforms coming in into insurance, maybe connected cars, and it'll be interesting to see. But these typically will go to the incumbent rather to the newbie industry. So it will be interesting to see where InsureTech is going. I know we had some, I don't know if to call it success, but there's a lot of movement happening in the last few months, whether it's, M&A, and mostly, I can't call them exits yet, right? I think you have to make an entry in order for you to make an exit, and hard to give you a proper example of that, but we'll see.
Well, tell me this: what is hot out there right now? What do your subscribers want to read about the most? Is it a certain industry, or is it a certain technology, AI, or is it property insurance? What is popular right now?
There's definitely, obviously a lot of, again, tons of focus on distribution, tons of focus on alternative distribution, which is also, who can I partner with to sell my product? Not necessarily from the InsureTech space. I think InsureTech, in a sense, reached kind of this Me Too movement, that every new InsureTech coming in is kind of similar play on someone else that we've seen.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
So exactly. And so if you cover a fintech player with an edge, you'll see life insurers going after them, even regardless of stage. I mean, we just got a thank you from someone we covered last week, and it was just a pure fintech player, barely a landing page, but I guess the idea resonated with a few. So I think there is that. There is, obviously your, trust and will, and legal tech. And this is all because people are trying to solve for their distribution problem, which is a nightmare in insurance. And InsureTech hasn't done a better job at solving it than incumbents. It's just a matter of who has a better advertising budget.
So would that be mostly with new insurance companies trying to sell their product, or is that more with actual devices like IoT?
More with selling the product.
Okay. Yeah, we had a really nice podcast that we recently did with Surround, and they were talking about, they have a product and they were working on the distribution on how they were going to get it out. So I think that's very important for these new startups. How do they get their product in the hands of the customers? Do they partner with somebody? Do they push it themselves? I think that's a great thing. Well, tell me this: what do you enjoy writing about the most? What industry? Let's go with that. Do you like property, health? With the InsureTech movement, what is your favorite to write about?
So my favorite would be no favorites, as long as it's exclusive.
Okay.
Okay, so when we started to write, to create Coverager, and we would get the press releases, and obviously you want to pretty up the press release and put it out there. It's typically somebody else's message, and so what we started to do was also go through, websites of InsureTech to see what has changed, because not everything that has changed for good or bad is necessarily being communicated. So if we can find a story that nobody else has picked up on, then that to me is really exciting, right? So if Geico is sending a referral to Lemonade and we're the first to write about it, that's exciting. If we are the first to write that, and InsureTech is no longer active, that's exciting. If I'm to suggest a partner and to later hear that he's actually piloting with AIG, that's exciting, because if I can bring in startups that are not necessarily pure insurance, but can offer insurance, they just don't think about it, and then I think, I'm happy. So yeah, I hope that kind of answered your question.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're a journalist, so you want an exclusive.
I do. I want an exclusive.
Do you consider yourselves a journalist?
I've been called that a few times this year, and you know what? As a marketer, perception is king. So whatever you call me, I get it. So
as long as the checks clear the bank, all right.
I don't try to change perceptions, and I think that's kind of what I also tell people or insurance companies. Like, don't try to change the perception of the product. It is what it is. And insurance is a good product, by the way. I believe that. And I don't believe in on demand, for instance, because I don't think you need that on and off. What they want is a fair priced product. Get that and move on. Move on to a different industry, move on to a different customer, move on to a different product. I don't know, solve a problem, but don't create problems that aren't there.
Well, let's talk about Surround for a second, because we had a podcast with Kate Terry from Surround. Do you know Kate? You must.
I know Surround.
Okay. They're very interesting. They're basically insurance for millennials who are emerging from their parents' financial umbrella, right? What's your thought on Surround?
So they're very early stage, and correct me if I'm wrong, but their idea is millennials in urban.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so it falls in line with almost every other InsureTech. It's all about segmenting, right? You've got insurance for parents, insurance for mothers, insurance for dads, and insurance for people that drive well. It's that whole, you take a slice of the market that you think there isn't a leader in, and there's not a lot of leaders in insurance. There's a lot of players, but not a lot of leaders, and you try to win them over. I don't know who they're writing the paper with, and I don't know anything about their distribution strategy. But the trick with millennials is, I'm a millennial. I was born in 1981. My sister is a millennial. My brother is a millennial. So we're all, just different elements to millennials. But as long as they know how to get a customer, good luck.
Right, and they're using brokers as their distribution channel.
Yeah,
which was
independent agents. Yeah.
Independent agents, which is interesting, because you would think naturally, without thinking about it, you think, of course, it's digital.
Millennials and digital, they don't need the agent, but what they've determined is that they do need the agent.
So there's two things I think there's a train of thought that is worth kind of delving into. There is digital, which everybody's going to be a digital company going forward if they aren't. And then there is direct. And so not every digital company is direct. Obviously, every direct company is typically digital unless it's lead gen, but two different strengths that are required to do this. Like, one is, obviously you can be digital, but being direct means that you're on Google Ads or Facebook or Instagram, and that requires an advertising budget that not everybody has. So then you've got digital companies that are basically saying, oh, we want to keep independent agents in the mix. And my question is that because they have a heart of gold, or because they can't sell their product themselves?
Good question.
It depends on the team, right? Or it depends on what their end game is. Okay, so if Next Insurance starts as a direct-to-consumer small business player, of course, small business in the micro sense of the word, the freelancer, the side hustler, and then says, hey, I also have a proposition for agents, sell my product. But is Next ever going to be not in the direct business? Now, I know that you can live together. I mean, you can be this and that, and as long as you are aware who your supplier is and who can become your competitor, go for it. If the deal makes sense right now, do it. But I think independent agents, Obviously, there's a room for independent agents in the world, and the majority flows through independent agents right now when we're looking in small business insurance versus personal.
Right.
But it's just a matter of asking the question, for this type of customer and for this type of product, who is best positioned to handle the business? Is it digital or is it a human? And sometimes it's both. And this is where insurance gets complicated. And that's why we're not really seeing the disruption that InsureTech thought that they would bring. It's not like you're seeing millions go with one versus the other. So it's kind of the same challenges that we had before the InsureTech movement.
One of the things that you hear about when you talk about the hippos and the lemonades and Metromiles, so forth, is you hear about customer engagement, which is something that carriers have struggled with forever and still struggle with today because customers just don't want to engage with their insurance companies. What do you think about that as a strategy? I mean, you guys must be covering that, must be hearing a lot about that. What's your take on that?
There's no such thing as customer engagement in insurance. There will never be customer engagement in insurance.
Okay. All right. I'm glad I asked.
We got to hear more about that.
Let me give you. Let's move out of insurance. And I think sometimes you really need to step outside of insurance in order to see the world from how the consumers see it, because they don't.
Agreed.
Insurance, right?
Agreed. Sure. We're with you. Go on.
You would agree that there is a fine line between love and hate?
Yes. A mighty fine line.
But the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference.
Indifference. Agreed.
And this is where the customer is at. When InsureTech came in, and this is a misconception, it was people hate insurance. People may hate healthcare, okay, but I don't think people hate Geico. Or if it was bad claim experience, yes, but people don't go around thinking, I hate insurance. And so it's hard to get them to love insurance or just to be passionate about something. And even to us, I will tell you this, we talk about insurance because it's our careers, it's our strategy, it's how we get our paychecks. I mean, let's be honest, it's not what you talk about. Well, we talk about it at holiday parties because Coverager is a family business, but with that exception, I think you understand what I'm saying. This is it's a great product. It's a product that's not meant to be used. Let's not try to change that. And when you try to change that, you come up with silly stuff like selfie quote or, vouching for one another. I don't want to bring my friends in when I have a claim.
Yeah, right.
First of all, now what kind of friends do people have? They message all the time. They barely have a conversation when you walk in the elevator. That's a different story. That's a different struggle. But I wouldn't solve for customer engagement. I wouldn't. I would solve for pricing. Offer a better price.
But you see a lot of that. You see these the marketing functions of these companies and the strategy that we're going to engage with our customer. We're going to bring them into a relationship with us. And your proposition is it's the wrong idea for this industry.
Absolutely.
Okay. I like that. I don't disagree.
No, I don't disagree either. For a long time, I forced myself to try to engage with my insurance company. And I would get turned off because my insurance company didn't necessarily engage with me. And I thought, why are they not trying to reach out to me? And then they reached out to me and I thought, oh, maybe I should shop around for insurance. I now remember it. And that's what we were talking about, I think, on the podcast the other day.
Right.
About how the more engagement, it really just reminds you that, I ought to shop around a little.
Yeah, maybe I should check my rates.
Yeah,
right.
Because it's not like a bank, right? You're engaging with the bank. You're with the bank. You're not paying the bank money every month. But with insurance, you could shop around. So too much engagement could be a bad thing.
Well, and I think so engagement is a big word, and typically the association is something positive. I'm not saying completely don't know who your customer is, never send an email, not have a contact me that's clear. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that you have to know the difference between, trying to overdo it by trying to create forced communication. If you want to send weather alerts because there's a storm, okay,
right.
Just know that 10 other apps are going to do it. Right? So do you have a shot? I mean, typically an insurance company, you're going to be the last one that people want to hear from. But, during claims, send a text message, of course. I think there is a balance, but in the context of how InsureTech have used customer engagement to appear different, it's not working.
So my son has Metro Mile car insurance, and they because of the telematics, they can see where his car is, where it's parked, and they send him a text that says, "Hey Alex, your car is parked right now where there's street sweeping tomorrow, and you'll get a ticket if you don't move your car." I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically what they said to him. Now, that was really cool and effective, don't you think?
I love it. Yes.
Uh-huh. And that's a great use of data and technology together. So I do think that I do think that there are some plays here, but I think it probably gets back to what you suggested, and that is probably what interests people the most is price.
Yes.
Because they don't really understand the nature of a policy and what's the difference.
I'll tell you a kind of a pet peeve for mine from CNA. At CNA, every time we develop something, they would say, "Well, let's do the very basic because the customer doesn't get it." Or sometimes they would, the insurance agent. Not every insurance agent understands the entire scope of coverage, and I don't understand the entire scope of coverage every time. But I think with social media and with the fact that you can go on to Reddit or to Twitter and you can ask a question and get answer, I'm not saying it's the best answer, but the people are learning what to ask. So it's kind of this do-it-yourself movement that we have to be familiar with. Is Metromile product different in a meaningful way from what Geico Progressive or Root is offering? And that's what people have to face. This is kind of the reality. There is an element for, if it's a commodity product, you do sell on price. And if you don't sell on price, there's a really good salesperson behind it that sells it. Outside of insurance, if, first time I bought a Givenchy bag, it was an awesome salesperson. And that's why I bought two, not even one. I wasn't even planning to buy it. She just stopped me. She told me stories, and I opened up my my wallet. And I remember that because Avi talks a lot about this. Their agents are kind of the heart of the sales process. And your son, if Metromile ups the pricing, he has a very convenient way to go and shop, whether he goes to Jerry or Gabby or Clear Cover, God knows. I mean, look how many new players are basically selling the same kind of product.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it helps with the stickiness and keeping them from shopping.
Yeah.
The text message that says move your car. But you're absolutely right. If what brought my son there in the beginning was price. That he could pay for how much he uses his car, which isn't a lot, and Metromile accommodated that and solved that problem for him. So I just want to ask you one question as a marketer, and Geico. I mean, I don't know. I know you guys cover Geico. Some I've seen their name in your email. What do you think about Geico's marketing and everything that we're talking about here? Customer engagement, perception, the way incumbent carriers are. Their marketing is so different. You must love that, the way they approach it.
I love how much money they put. I think, do I love the 15 minutes could save you more? I remember it because I hear it so much.
Mm-hmm.
Does my sister hear it so much because she's on YouTube and Netflix, or she does that subscription without an ads? Oh my gosh, you have to hear the story. So my sister subscribes to Hulu, and I tell her if there are insurance companies that are on Hulu, I want to know because I will use it in the newsletter. And she said, "Why do you think I wouldn't? I'm paying not to have ads."
Right.
Telling her, just, how you use the free version, so I know what's going on. Geico has been brilliant for so long. Is Geico going to continue to be as brilliant and as effective? I mean, we're kind of seeing signs of struggle. So I think I love the idea of Geico. I think Geico has done nothing wrong with the marketing. I don't think their marketing is stupid by any means. I think it's creative, but I also think there's an element of repetition that is helping them.
Mm-hmm.
What happens to the folks that are, just growing up on YouTube or without cable, or are, Root Insurance is crazy with the referral codes, right? You search Root Insurance in Twitter, and there's tons of people just basically saying, hey, use this link, get $25, sometimes get 50, I don't know, depends on the season, right? So that they've got competition as well, right? And speaking of Root, they offer up to 52%. So what's going to stick, 15% or 52%?
Right. So do you think social is the future of marketing in insurance?
I think people are going to go offline again in a weird way, because online is getting so competitive and crowded and expensive. And so you've got, SEO and SEM, but if you can find a way, kind of like back to surround, if you can find a way to balance direct and digital, you may as well do that, because people create stickiness. Like you have a story, you sell something, you're loyal to a person. You're loyal to a person, you're not loyal to a machine. I mean, that's all it is. Well, unless it's Apple, you're loyal to Apple.
I'm beginning to think that when we die, we just all go back into some big recycling bin somewhere that Apple owns, and we come back out as a device. What do you think about that?
It'd be pretty.
Huh?
It would be very pretty.
It would be designed in California. Well, listen, we've eaten through all of our time today, and we know that you're a busy person, so we'll call it a day here. Thank you so much for your time and your insights. It's so refreshing to have your straightforward and forthcoming way on a podcast that covers, InsureTech and insurance. We don't get that all the time. And
thank you for having me.
Will you come back and visit with us again sometime?
First, you have to come to the city.
You be careful what you wish for.
Wishes do come true.
Where are you in the city?
42nd and 5th. I know the best pizza place because that's my go-to food, clearly, because I'm Israeli and I love New York City.
Well, then count on that. We'll be in New York, I'm sure, sometime this spring. And we'll look for it. Maybe we'll do a live podcast from the offices of Coverager.
Let's do it.
We get all the Ben-Huttas on. How many in the office now? 3 or 4?
And there are 3. The 4th one will hopefully by then get accepted to med school. So, yeah.
Really? Med school over Coverager? I don't know about that.
You can't put all the eggs in one basket.
No. Okay. Everybody needs a doctor in the family.
Indeed.
Okay. Thanks again, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Lee, you know what?
What, bro?
Customer engagement does not exist in insurance. What do you think of that?
Yeah, she has a very strong opinion on that, and I don't know if I disagree with her. I think I kind of go along with her on that.
No, I think she made a great case.
She made a great case. But what's interesting, for about 50 episodes, we've heard a whole different world.
Right. We're going to engage our customers.
Yeah, that's what
we engage our customers. That's right.
That's the problem we're solving. We need to engage with them. They want to be engaged with. We've talked to people who that's all they do is engage. And she says, no.
Uh-huh.
Interesting.
Uh-huh. Very smart.
Yeah. I mean, I wrote that note to you in the middle of it that said she is a very smart person. And then I finished it off with quite a bit smarter than me. Mm-hmm. And it's great to be able to talk to somebody who has delved in so deep into this industry. And
frankly, I think Coverager is a breath of fresh air in our world, where we all typically are very careful about what we say and very measured about any kind of feedback that we may give. Right. And I think that they have found a effective way to cut through that and to say it the way they see it as journalists with an opinion, if you will, opinion columnists. I've been a subscriber to the newsletter. I would say maybe since InsureTech of last year. For a long time, it's come to my inbox, and it's a different newsletter. It's not a traditional newsletter. It's written in a way that it is just unique, and I've always enjoyed it. But like I said on the podcast, the quote that they started, it was a hyperlink to a comment on an insurance company's LinkedIn page. Right there, it sets the tone for it, that we're going to give you the information that we found. Good, bad, or ugly, you're going to see it. And that's a breath of fresh air. Well, we're just so grateful to Shefi for giving us some time today and telling us all about Coverager and sharing a lot of great thoughts that I hope that our audience listens to and has a chance to digest. And we'd love to hear back from you about your thoughts on this episode, the opinions that were expressed, and the ideas that came forward. And you can do that by reaching us at fnoinsuretech.com. On the contact tab, you can send us an email and hit us up. Thanks, Shefi Ben-Hutta, for being with us today. And we'll look forward to having you on again. And as always, we thank you for being with us. And you can support us by subscribing to our crazy little podcast. And because it's the end of the podcast, we say
Goodbye, everyone.